Showdown Pearl, it's a look at the day's stories in NBC Nightly News. Stay with us.
It's crunch time, the whirlwind final hours for Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. The campaign nearly over, the polls soon to open. Both sides barnstorming battlegrounds with rallies past midnight. And after a marathon campaign, it all comes down to this, the math and the map. Who has the upper hand? Also tonight, securing the election. Intelligence sources tell NBC News it's all hands on deck. An unprecedented plan, top secret facilities, secure locations underground, and a massive show of force in New York City where Team Clinton, Team Trump, and the eyes of the world will converge. We have it all covered. Our team is in place. Nightly News begins right now.
From NBC News World Headquarters in New York, this is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good evening from the NBC News Election Center. Tomorrow we elect a president, and for many it can't come soon enough after a campaign that has repeatedly turned modern history on its head. As we near the 11th hour of the race, our latest polling, the NBC News Survey Monkey, puts Hillary Clinton ahead in a four-way race with 47%, Donald Trump at 41%. But this is a battle that hinges on a handful of states. And tonight, barely 24 hours before the first poll closings, and with the electoral map still in flux, Clinton and Trump are on the move, making their closing arguments and planning big late-night finishes. We have expanded coverage of the state of the race on this election eve. We start with NBC's Andrea Mitchell in Philadelphia and the Clinton campaign. Andrea, good evening.
Good evening, Lester. It has been a long and often painful 18 months until the very last moment, clouded by her choice to use personal emails. But now Hillary Clinton clearly feels she is on the verge of going where no woman has ever gone. Hillary Clinton heading out for the final campaign sprint, chasing a prize she's pursued for years. Her last chance to connect with Americans with a closing argument she acknowledges needs to erase many voters' nagging doubts.
I think I have some work to do to bring the country together.
Can you do that? Can you heal the journey?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I love this country, and I believe in our people, and I do think we'll bring the country together.
After a relentlessly negative campaign, now she's going positive, boosted by the FBI director's decision to end the email review. But you won't hear her comment on that decision. Her campaign telling NBC News that would only remind swing voters of the email controversy, brushing off my question about it today.
We're on a good track.
Making a last-minute push to defend Democratic territory in 3 battleground states, starting in Pennsylvania, where she needs suburban Republican women and a big turnout of minorities in cities like Pittsburgh.
Tomorrow we face the test of our time. Will we be coming together as a nation or splitting further apart?
And trying to hold Michigan, traditionally Democratic, but where Clinton aides tell NBC News they worry the trade issue could help Donald Trump flip a blue state. Tonight, appealing to undecided voters.
I know that for many people, you've gone back and forth, you've thought about what to do, but let me say this. This election is basically between division and unity.
Also trying to pull Clinton over the finish line, President Obama, who crushed her White House hopes 8 years ago and is now her strongest salesman.
Whatever credibility I've earned after 8 years as president, I am asking you to trust me on this one, because I am absolutely confident that when she is president, this country will be in good hands.
Tonight, Clinton making a personal appeal, a 2-minute TV ad in prime time, hoping to reach as many as 20 million people.
I want to be a president for all Americans, not just those who support me in this election, for everyone.
And she's firing up celebrity wattage in these closing days. Beyonce and Jay-Z, Katy Perry and LeBron James. And tonight, here at Independence Hall, Hillary Clinton will be joined by both Obamas and her husband and daughter, hoping at Independence Hall, where the founders formed a more perfect union, to make history herself and make it more inclusive tomorrow. Lester?
Andrew Mitchell in Philadelphia, thank you. And meantime, Donald Trump is barnstorming battleground states at a breakneck pace, hitting 5 battlegrounds on this final day of campaigning, rallying his supporters one last time and continuing to go hard at Hillary Clinton. NBC's Katie Tur has the very latest on the Trump trail.
Donald Trump is trying to close the deal, hopscotching across the country to give his final pitch to the American public.
This is it. This is it. Good luck. Get out there. I did my thing. I mean, I worked.
During this last sprint, every second counts. Trump hitting 9 cities in 9 states over the weekend. Today alone in Florida, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, New Hampshire, and Michigan.
Nice head of hair, I'll say that.
This morning in Sarasota, almost giddy.
Is there any place more fun to be than a Trump rally? Right?
The campaign, like their candidate, is feeling good. Over the past week and a half, the race tightening so dramatically, even his seasoned aides were surprised. Buoyed by 9 days of innuendo after the FBI revived its investigation into Hillary Clinton.
I would bet anything. Some of those emails are so bad. They're so classified, they're beyond classified.
The FBI closed that investigation again Sunday afternoon, but so far no correction from Trump.
They went through 650,000 emails in 8 days. Yeah, right.
Only hours left, and Trump still hasn't released his taxes, hasn't quashed perceived conflicts of interest between himself and his company should he win, and hasn't been cleared of fraud charges against his university. Then there's uncertainty surrounding how he would govern. NBC News has learned from senior campaign sources Trump won't talk transition because he doesn't want to jinx his chances. But his staff is posturing behind the scenes and talking about Newt Gingrich as Secretary of State, Rudy Giuliani as Attorney General, Reince Priebus as Chief of Staff. Officially, Team Trump denies these names are under consideration. One thing is certain, though, whatever does happen, politics will not be the same.
There is every possibility that the Trump faction of the Republican Party will persist, and there will be a fight over the soul of this party over the next 4 years.
In these final hours, Donald Trump has repeatedly said that he will do well among African Americans and Latinos by simply saying he will. Tomorrow, his strategy will be put to the test, but tonight he is not done yet. He'll be in Manchester, New Hampshire in a couple hours, and he will end his night in Grand Rapids, Michigan, his 510th day of campaigning. Lester.
Katie Tur, thank you. Let me turn now to Chuck Todd, NBC News political director and moderator of Meet the Press. I've seen you at that board all day. I'm fascinated to know what you're looking at, what you're focusing on for tomorrow.
Well, to figure out how states are going, you want to look at certain demographic groups. And I want to show you some interesting things from our final NBC Wall Street Journal poll. Among all white voters, this was a fascinating fact here. Donald Trump was leading Hillary Clinton, but only by 15 points, which is actually less than Mitt Romney 2012. Mitt Romney, of course, did not win the presidency. The wonder has been, is there going to be enough white voters there to propel Trump if he doesn't do well with non-white voters? Well, take a look at this. Non-college educated white voters have been the backbone for Trump in this primary, and he is doing better with them than Romney did, but by only 5 points. Now, this will be fine if he does well with other white voters, but clearly he's not. Let me show you. And this could be the key to this election. College-educated white voters. A stunning result in our final NBC Wall Street Journal poll. Not only was Clinton leading, she was leading by 10 points. Romney won this group of voters by 14. This is a 24-point swing. So what does this mean for the map? This is what it would mean for the map, Lester. Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, maybe Arizona, you name it. A state with big suburban populations of college-educated whites. If Hillary Clinton is winning them by 10 points, this is going to become a much bluer map much quicker.
That could be game-changing stuff.
Could be a game changer, absolutely.
All right, Chuck Todd, thanks. Let me turn now to Steve Schmidt. He's a Republican strategist and political analyst. Steve, you worked in the McCain campaign. Give me the inside view, 24 hours before an election. What's going on? Are you going on data or gut as to where you need to be?
You're looking at both. Certainly in the 2004 campaign with George W. Bush, we were 3 points ahead in the final polling averages. We were nervous, but we were feeling good. But you come into this night, it's a long day ahead. All of the action is slowing down. There's not a lot that you can do. You sit, you hurry up and wait for the polls to close. It's as long a day as you can possibly imagine.
And it's going to be a long night tomorrow. Steve, thanks very much. Good to have you here. One of the biggest factors in deciding the election could be the influence of the Latino vote. Early voting suggests it's an all-time high in the all-important battleground state of Florida. NBC's Gabe Gutierrez is in Central Florida and has a closer look for us.
Let's just talk to these folks who are out and let's see.
In the toughest of battlegrounds, the war is changing.
The Latino community know that their futures, their families, education, healthcare, jobs, all of that is on the line here in 2016.
Cristina Hernandez runs Que Vote Mi Gente, Spanish for Vote My People. For months, the group in Central Florida scrambling to energize an underrepresented demographic, long considered a sleeping giant.
The Latino vote in the state of Florida has exploded.
In Florida, Hispanics have so far cast about 15% of the more than 6 million early and absentee ballots, boosted by Puerto Ricans fleeing the island's debt crisis. Turnout among Latinos is also surging in Arizona, Nevada, and parts of Texas, where immigration is a top concern.
Latinos are much like all Americans, that they vote on different issues and different local issues.
Despite his controversial comments about Mexicans, Donald Trump insists he's gaining ground.
We're going to do great with the Hispanics.
But among Latinos, Hillary Clinton leads him by 45 percentage points. Since winning the White House in 2004, the GOP has lost more Hispanic support each election cycle.
Sometimes I think that Donald Trump looked at that GOP autopsy after 2012 and decided to do the exact opposite.
You don't like either candidate?
Really, no.
Milagro Torres, a Puerto Rican voter, disgusted by Trump, but skeptical of Clinton. Still, she voted early for the Democrat. On the road to the White House, what was once a sleeping giant is stirring. Gabe Gutierrez, NBC News, Kissimmee, Florida.
Let's turn now to the storm brewing around the FBI director. Some Republicans are questioning the FBI's claim that agents got through thousands of emails, some potentially related to Mrs. Clinton, in just 8 days. It's yet another question for James Comey, who found himself widely criticized by Democrats and Republicans for his actions during the campaign. No matter what happens tomorrow night, Comey's relationship with the next president could be strained. We get all the latest from our justice correspondent, Pete Williams.
Okay. The FBI says agents work 24 hours a day to sort through the emails found on Anthony Weiner's laptop.
So sad what's going on.
Though Donald Trump and his supporters say it's not possible to go through 650,000 emails in 8 days, FBI officials say most of the process was automated. Step 1, check email headers to isolate those sent to or from Huma Abedin while Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State. Then use a program like this to eliminate duplicates of the thousands of emails already seen on the Clinton server. Only a small number, the FBI says, had to be individually read. The investigation is over, but FBI Director James Comey is left with lots of explaining to do.
Hillary Clinton is guilty. She knows it. The FBI knows it.
Donald Trump's supporters say she should have been prosecuted over the emails. She said the FBI should never have brought up the latest emails without looking at them first.
The director himself has said he doesn't know whether the emails referenced in his letter are significant or not.
FBI officials say Comey wants to give a full accounting of his role in all this, including the decisions he made, which he might do in a couple of weeks, and whatever his own plans. Members of Congress are eager to pull him up for hearings, but these officials, Lester, say he intends to stay for his full 10-year term, which would mean another 7 years.
All right, Pete, thanks very much. Still ahead tonight on High Alert, top secret underground ops centers where U.S. security stands ready to react amid heightened concerns over outside interference in America's election. We'll be right back. Beyond the candidates themselves, the searing rhetoric, and all the unforeseen twists and turns, there is another reason why this election is unprecedented. The security operation on Election Day, aimed especially at a potential cyber attack, will be like nothing the government has ever mounted. We get more on this tonight from our senior investigative correspondent, Cynthia McFadden.
At 6 this morning, a high-level intelligence official told NBC News preparations and nerves are at the frenzy level as the federal government gears up to protect the country on Election Eve. It's all hands on deck, says a second senior intelligence official. Multiple officials say concern is so high for the first time in conjunction with an election in several top-secret facilities, including underground bunkers like this newly refurbished one located somewhere on the East Coast. Hundreds of federal employees, including both military and intelligence cyber experts, are monitoring incoming intelligence to react to any threat to the federal government's communication and command systems. This morning, former NATO commander Admiral James Stavridis discussed the type of Russian threat he was concerned about, from a dump of false documents to an attack on the U.S. power grid.
There's maybe a 1 in 3 chance of this happening, but it's not insignificant.
The scope of government readiness is unprecedented, including the 6 national cyber centers and 54 state emergency operations centers, including here in New York, where both candidates will host what they hope are victory celebrations. New York Police Department and counter-surveillance teams are already at work. 5,000 uniformed officers on the detail, comparable to the Pope's visit. It's the first time since 1944 that both candidates are from the same place. It, too, was New York, the candidates Roosevelt and Dewey. But unlike 1944, the cyber genie got out of the bottle this year and won't ever be put back in. Cynthia McFadden, NBC News, New York.
We're back in a moment with some of the day's other news, including the latest on the earthquake that struck in the middle of the country. Back now with some of the day's other news. Janet Reno, the history-making first female Attorney General of the United States who served under President Bill Clinton, has died. Reno's Justice Department oversaw a number of headline-grabbing cases, including the 1993 World Trade Center bombing and the 1995 Oklahoma City bombing. But she was criticized for her handling of the 1993 Waco siege and the Elian Gonzalez battle in 2000. Reno was diagnosed with Parkinson's while in office and died due to complications from the disease. She was 78. Officials in Oklahoma said today that yesterday's powerful magnitude 5 earthquake damaged 40 to 50 buildings, not far from one of the world's largest oil storage terminals. That facility in Cushing was not damaged and no injuries were reported. Oklahoma has experienced thousands of earthquakes in recent years, most linked to underground injection of wastewater in oil and gas production, known as fracking. And whenever you think you've had a terrifying experience flying, imagine being on this flight in Mexico. When a snake emerged from the overhead luggage area and then dangled from the ceiling. At least one passenger was able to get past the terror and film it. Aeromexico officials are investigating how the snake got on the plane and say they're taking measures to make sure it doesn't happen again. When we come back, they've got quite a batting average when it comes to picking presidents, but how are voters in this battleground county feeling this time? The centerpiece for tomorrow's Decision Night in America coverage. We're going to conclude this part of our broadcast tonight with a story from a battleground state where the people say it's not battles they want from the candidates, but rather answers and solutions to real problems. Here's NBC's Kevin Tibbles.
As the seasons change, so will the presidency. We've returned to Pemberville, Ohio, whose county picked 23 of the last 29 presidential winners. Bob Frobos runs the family meat market.
Where's the beef?
A year ago, he was frustrated because he didn't hear much about where candidates stood on the issues.
I have not made a decision yet by any stretch.
But a campaign filled with hostility and name-calling has left him worn out and frankly demoralized.
At my age, I'm shocked that our country has gotten to this point.
But as the people of this swing state town prepare to mark their X, there's also a lot of trepidation.
How are you feeling on the eve of the election?
Very anxious, nervous.
Last year, Diane Hopkins was leaning Democrat.
The American dream, have a home, start a family.
But tomorrow, she says, she will vote Republican.
I believe in what he brings to the table, which is a lot different from a year ago, because I just didn't know enough about him.
Todd Sheets owns the general store.
You're hearing a lot of people say that, they're not excited about either candidate. That's kind of sad.
And if Trump wins,
continue on.
Here, what people want most of all is to get past the angry shouts and get back to their everyday peaceful lives.
The good part of this is, come Wednesday morning, the sun is going to come up. No matter if your candidate wins or loses, it's going to be okay.
Kevin Tibbles, NBC News, Pemberville, Ohio.
That is going to do it for us on this Monday night. A reminder, our election coverage begins tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific. We hope you'll join us for Decision Night in America. For some of you, we'll continue with the second half hour of this broadcast. For others, it will be available live streaming on our website. I'm Lester Holt. For all of us at NBC News, thank you for watching and good night.
Viewers are advised that tomorrow morning's edition of NBC Nightly News has been preempted due to program change.